Well, hello and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I am Dave Riccio, co-creator of Bumper to Bumper Radio and your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I am joined by my co-host, John Riggle. Together with 75 years of combined experience, we are putting you in the know when it comes to your car. John, one of the things that I want people to know, because we're doing repairs in the Bay that are avoidable.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're looking at the car and we're just shaking our head because maybe it's a big repair bill and it is related to oil changes.
Yeah.
And oil changes are one of those things that I think are, people see the cheap ads for oil changes, got to get my oil changed, the quickie oil change, whatever it may be, and they go wrong on oil changes. And one of the questions that I think is so imperative is, how often do I change my oil? And I know what the manufacturer recommendations are.
Right.
But in the repair shop, on the other end of things, I know what my recommendations are. What is your recommendation?
5,000 miles.
Why 5,000 miles?
It just seems to be the right interval to maintain the oil quality, and it gives you the right interval to have somebody look at your car to spot potential issues, before they become big issues. So the 5,000 miles, it seems to work out pretty good for most people.
I like 5,000 miles because you should be rotating your tires every 5,000 miles. If you want good tire life, if you want to enjoy the way your car rides, when you don't rotate enough, the ride quality of the car goes down.
Yeah.
So you should be rotating your tires every 5,000 miles. It's already up on the hoist. It's already getting the tires rotated. That is a good time to get your oil changed. So, and then to stay on that 5,000 miles. So I buy the car at mile 0.
Yeah.
And then my first oil change is at 5,000, where I get a tire rotation. And then I go to oil change number 2, 10,000 miles, 15,000 miles, 20,000 miles. Between oil changes and tire rotation, I'm going to get the best out of my car.
That's easy math.
What do you think about the oil? Because I drive a 2023 Toyota Tacoma, and it tells me to change the oil at every 10,000 miles. So that's when it lets me know something's up.
Sure.
How do you feel about those indicators?
Those are fairly sophisticated. There's a lot of technology that goes into the oil maintenance reminders, and those systems track how often the car warms up, how long it stays at that temperature, all kinds of driving conditions and stuff. So technically, from a manufacturer's point of view, those intervals, they rely on those. They like those, but you always have to remember, manufacturers are in the business of selling cars.
And parts.
Yeah,
and
selling
parts.
parts and cars. So always take that one with a grain of salt. And there's big variables there. Here we always have temperatures in the summer over 100 degrees. Temperature has a big effect on it, how long it takes to get the car warm, to get evacuate any kind of moisture out of the crankcase and stuff. So there's a lot of things that go into it. So that's why we kind of boil it back down to the 5,000 miles seems to be really good for just a really good, easy to remember number that doesn't overdo it. It doesn't need to be 3,000 miles anymore. We've got
3,000 miles it was for years, but cars are technology. Everything's way better than it used
oils
to be.
are better.
Oils are better.
Filters are better. Everything about it's better. That we scavenge crankcases better. There's a lot of things we do there that the 5,000 mile, do that and you'll be good.
The other thing I'll touch on briefly is that engines consume oil.
Yeah.
So on a lot of these cars, with the oil consumption, by the time, if you followed the manufacturer recommendation or that indicator on the dash, you might run out of oil.
Yeah,
because you've got oil leaks as the car car ages, and the other thing you have is oil consumption. Yeah. And I won't dive deep into that, but you diagnose every car that comes into the shop.
Yeah.
And one of the first things you do is check the engine oil.
Yeah.
What would you say is the percentage of cars where you check the engine oil and it is low?
At least 60% of them are a quart low or more. And quite often it's 1.5 to 2 quarts. And that is just an amazing number to me.
Yeah. So, and that causes issues. I've actually, we've had engines that are low on oil. It affects the cam timing, things like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can wind up with drivability problems. You can actually do damage to them. When we don't get sufficient oil to all these newer late model cars with these real complex timing chain systems and stuff, they really require a good volume of high quality oil to keep them from wearing out the gears and chains and things.
These cars are way more complex, and what we want you to do here is avoid, major repairs on your car.
Yeah.
Oil change is cheap insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So, last I checked, synthetic oil, the right oil for your car,
Yeah.
you're going to spend anywhere between $90 and $110.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about a European car that's $250.
Yeah.
But I'm
no.
talking the majority of cars on the road,
Mm-hmm.
90 to $110 to make sure your engine is well taken care of. And we just did an engine on a late model Ford Mustang.
Yeah.
A really expensive engine.
Yeah.
And it only had 75,000 miles on it.
Yep.
It's 60,000 miles she had brought to the attention of the Ford dealer she was getting it serviced by that it was making noise, and so she had them look into it. And they said, that's all right, and they kind of brushed it off,
Yeah.
when in fact there was a problem. Well, at 75,000 miles, we're checking it out. We hear the same noise. We say, hey, we got to get this valve cover off. And we're looking at those, all the valve train in that thing, and everything is well worn from lack of oiling.
Yeah.
So, what was the price tag on that engine?
That was $30,000.
$30,000.
Yeah, it was ridiculously expensive.
It wasn't your standard Mustang. I mean,
Yeah,
it was a real dolled up, super sweet, whatever that thing, a Voodoo motor or
Yeah, it was
something
a
like that.
Shelby GT Coyote or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a nice car, and real sophisticated valve train in the car, and that car even has a special engine oil spec that was it was like a 040 or something. It was an odd
different
number. I remember that, and it was real specific for that engine.
And let's touch on that real quick, is that you may get a coupon for a really sweet, cheap oil change.
Yeah.
Now, I got about 20 suppliers that I could call today and get prices that would stock oil in my shop.
Right.
And some of those prices are dramatically different.
Yeah.
And oils are very specific. There is cheap oil. You ever heard of the, what do they call it, snake oil salesman?
Yeah.
So there is plenty of that going on. And if somebody's got oil changes for an auto shop are not a profit center.
Right.
They are if they get to sell you an air filter or something like that. But they don't, it's not a place where they pay their rent and pay their technicians and all that. It's a lost leader, if you will.
It's a lost leader to get people in the door, sure.
So if it's, and that's at $100, it's a loss.
Yeah.
So if someone's doing one for $49, $59, I'm not feeling they're using a good quality filter, which is a big deal.
Yep.
And I'm not feeling they're using a good quality oil, because the prices, and all those vendors I can buy oil from, the prices are dramatically different.
Yeah.
But, we've liked to send oil out and have it checked under the microscope to know what it is.
You have to be so careful with oils, because there is no one-size-fits-all universal oil. Even oils of the same weight. You've got two 530 synthetic oils. There may be different specifications for the manufacturer for your car. There's differences in the way the European cars use oils and some of the domestic cars. It depends on the engine design, timing chain setups, valve train setups. And a lot of them have different specifications for shear and viscosity, and there's a whole science to it. And really, the best way to find out what oil goes in your car is to read the owner's manual. In the owner's manual will be the specific specification for your oil. And when you get your oil change, you want to ask, are you using an oil that is appropriate for my car?
Yes.
That's one of the most important things.
So we can't underestimate the importance of a good oil change. Every 5,000 miles is a good rule of thumb. Go ahead and rotate your tires at the same time, and then make sure you're at a quality facility that is using the right oil for your vehicle, not some cheap, fell off the back of a truck oil, and also a good oil filter. So you want to make sure it's being checked out by a good technician. When I say someone who's qualified, technician that really takes time and care and attention to your car. We can't underestimate it. Thanks for joining us on this Bumper to Bumper podcast. We'll dive deeper in other episodes as related to oil consumption, air filters, things like that.
Yeah.
See you next time. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.